Hello folks, welcome to the channel. So today, before starting the video, I would like to request you that if you are liking the content and in any way if it is giving you some knowledge, so do like, share and comment and also subscribe the channel, as your one subscribe will definitely means a lot to me. So let's start with today's video. As looking at the thumbnail, you might have understood that today we will discuss about microservices and how two microservices could interact with each other. So on your screen you can say that what is microservices. First we'll discuss that what is a microservices. So let's go with the definition that microservices is an architectural style that structures an application as a collection of services that are loosely coupled and maintainable. So while we use Spring Boot, we are making a small application, right? A very small web application or very small REST application. So a collective two or three Spring Boot applications could be packed and solving a purpose, solving a problem. So that will be the package that is called as that is a microservice architecture, right? So now when we today's video when we discuss the example, let me take you to the flowchart of the example that we will be developing today. So here we are taking a hypothetical example. We are just assuming that there is a employee service and then there is a employer service. So employer service has a database, right? And employer service stores data of like that how what is the average package for a software engineer, what is the average package for a business analyst. So all these details are being stored in employer service. Employer service has access to database. So here in this example we will be using Postgres database. So that Postgres database has a table of employer service, right? And it stores the data of that what average packages does an employee get from a particular company, right? And then there is an employee service. Right now in our example, employee service doesn't have any kind of a table or anything, as we are not performing any logic after fetching the data, right? So what employee service is doing is employee service wants that data, that what is the average package of a software engineer and a business analyst from employer service. So it is using a REST template. So right now we are covering the example that how two microservices interact with each other. So the first way that the two microservices could interact is a REST template way. There are many other ways that we'll be covering in subsequent videos, but right now we'll be covering a REST template way, how the employee service can interact with employer service using a REST template. So combine all these three, it makes a microservice architecture. So as I told you that small Spring Boot Spring Boot services packed together will make a microservice architecture. So this makes a microservice architecture. So let's start by building an example. Let me take you to the Eclipse IDE, and I have kept the code aside. I'll be copy pasting the code, but I'll be explaining everything step by step, right? So let's go on file and let's create a new project here. So let me create a new project and we'll say it as a Spring Starter project. Yes, we'll go ahead. And first of all, we'll be making a employer service. The employer service would have the access of database. So we'll say employer service. So we'll say employer service, and then we'll keep the Java version as 8 and packaging as jar. We have kept this packaging as jar because one more thing that this employer service is would be deployed on Eureka server rather than on Tomcat server, right? As we want to interact with with the services of this service of employer service, so we'll be deploying employer service on Eureka server, right? So let me make the packages as well. So we'll say com dot employer dot service, and we'll keep the same package here as well. And you can give any description here if you want a demo project for Spring Boot showing employer service deployed on Eureka server, right? So let's go next and then select few of the dependencies we need Spring Web dependency, we need Eureka server dependency, we need Postgres dependency as we are using Postgres database here, and we also need Eureka discovery client, right? So many other dependencies also I require that I'll be pasting when the project is being created, right? Now I'll finish the project and the project would get created and imported. So we have to wait for a few minutes. So right now what I am doing is I'm developing the employer service, right? Now employee service would be interacting with the employer service, right? So employer service the employer service would be deployed on the Eureka server and pointing to a database as well, right? So now we check that our project has been imported or not. So it is taking time. So now our project is imported. Let's go to the pom.xml and see that what all dependency have been added and what all dependency we require. So I've added Spring Boot starter project, Eureka client server, and Postgres, right? And now I'll show you that what all dependency I require more. I'll copy it and I'll paste it here, right? I'll say here I'll paste it. Now also we need the Spring Data JPA dependency as well. That was missed while we were tagging. We were importing the Maven dependency from Spring Starter, right? So these all dependencies we require. Now let me go to the project structure and let me see that our project. Okay, we have our main class here, right? Now what we'll make is first of all let me make the packages. What all packages we require is first of all I need a package of a model. We need a package of a model where our entity would be there, and then we need a package of a controller, right? And controller, and then a package of a then we need a package of a repository, right? So as our packages are made, now I'll start by building our model class. So I'll simply make a class and I'll name it as employer, right? So this would be my employer entity. So I'll copy paste the entire code of employer entity and I'll say I'll explain you that what all things I'm putting inside my entity and why I am putting it. So right, and now I have an ID here which is a primary key and the average package and a profile. Profile would be like a business analyst or a software engineer, right? So that is the profile, and the average package we'll be inserting in, right? So let's save the model class first and let's now go to our repository package. So we'll say employer repository. We'll make an employer repository, employer repository, right? So why we require employer repository? That the data would be stored into the database, that what is the average package for a particular profile, right? So we'll be fetching that. So we'll be requiring a repository here. So we needed an interface rather than a class. We needed an interface, right? So we'll say it as we'll mark it as @repository, right? We'll say @repository, and now let me check that what code we'll be requiring here. So we'll be requiring this code. We just need a one method to return the employer on the basis of a profile, right? first of all we need to extend it with a JPA repository. So let me first extend it with JPA repository, JPA repository, and here we'll be saying employer, and our identifier is an integer, right? Our primary. Okay. Now what method is required is that we need to return an employer on the basis of profile. So again, that same way I'm making a method that we discussed in the previous videos as well, that the last the column name of that entity would be after find by, right? So it identifies it that on which basis that the data should be fetched from the database, right? So we have set find by profile. So now we'll make our controller class. Now what controller class would be doing is the controller class would be fetching the data, right? And then we from the employee service will be pointing to the controller of employer, right? So let me make an employer controller, mark this as a REST controller. As we are not making a web application, we are just exposing the REST application from this controller, so we'll mark it as a REST controller, and we'll make these two methods. So what these two methods are saying, okay, so these two methods, let me import things first. Let me import the get mapping, and let me include the employer entity, right? So we are getting these two calls. One is that what is the get the average package of an SD, where we are fetching the average package of a software engineer, right? And returning the average package value, that is a long value. And same again, I have made another call for a getting average package of a BA, that is a business analyst, and then we are returning the long value. So this is all from an employer controller, right? Now we are done with the code part for an employer controller. Let's now make another application, another project, new project of an employee service, right? Or rather, what we'll do is we'll copy this and then we'll paste it here. We'll change all the namings and all part. We'll say employee service, right? Now I'll tell you that what all dependencies we don't require in this project, and what all dependencies were required in employer service. So we are done with the code. We have copied the code, and this is our service. So first of all, let me go to the pom.xml. It will take a bit of time because it is getting built on the basis of the jars. So now as you can see that Eureka jars are there as well. So we don't require Eureka for this project, as we'll be deploying this service on Tomcat rather than on Eureka, right? So we'll comment this out, and also we don't require the Spring Data JPA as well, as we are not interacting with the database here. So we'll also comment this out, right? Now this is our pom.xml. Let the pom get built, and then we'll start with the coding part. Now when we go to the structure of the code, first of all, we don't need these packages. Because this is not required to us, right? We just need a controller class, and that too, let me rename the controller class first, so that it becomes easy. So let me say this as a employee controller, right? Employee controller. So it will refactor the employee controller, name of the controller. Yes, it has refactored it. So let's go here. We don't need this. Rather than copying the project, you can even go to the files and make a new Spring Starter project. It rather copying it would be a little easy rather than making a new project, because Eclipse takes a lot of time to import the project. So let me go to my code repository and see that what code we have written here. So we have written this code and I'll copy this up. I'll remove this code because this is not required. We require this code, right? Now to make you clear what is let me see why it is not getting imported. Load balancer, I need to add a dependency here, I think so. So yes, we need to add the load balancer dependency. Yes, we need to add the load balancer dependency that I've added to the POM. Let me go to our POM and let me show you that I've added the dependency here. So here is the load balancer dependency, Spring Cloud Load Balancer, right? So we need to add this dependency, and let me now try to import load balancer. Yes, it is imported now. And let me import the REST template as well. Yes, it is imported. Now it looks good. And also we need to add the Google JSON object, a simple JSON object. So let me go to the Google and copy the dependency first. Let me go to the pom.xml. So you can see that when we are developing project, we get a lot of challenges, right? We have to be a little patient and go a little slow to make it a perfect. So I've copied a simple Google JSON. It is built now. Let me import the JSON object here. So this is the JSON object I require, and let me save the file now. So we don't need these imports as this was a copied project. So now we are ready with our employee controller as well, employee service we'll say. This is the service that we'll be hitting from the Postman, and then internally using the REST template functionality, we are hitting the endpoints of our service that would be deployed on the Eureka server. First of all, I have missed something. Let me go back to the employer service, and we haven't uh, given the ports of our application and not even the connection of database. So let me go to our property files things. Yes, let me copy this up, let me paste it there. So here all the things that how to connect to the database, this has already been covered in previous sections. Now I have marked this application on port 8008. The application would be up on this port, right? And then the registry with the Eureka should be false, and fetch client registry should be false. Now Spring application name, I have made employer service. I have named it as an employer service to make it a little easy on the CMD to see that okay, this service is running with the name this employer service, right? So let me save this, and our coding part is almost done. Our employer service is done, and our employee service is also done. So let me tell you how we are interacting with the employer service. So we are actually first making a bean of REST template, which is returning a new object of a REST template, and then using that REST template we are hitting the URL of that controller. So as I told you that we need an HTTP, so that's why we are deploying our service on Eureka server. So we are saying HTTP localhost 808 and then get average of SDE. Get average of SDE, you can see it from the here, the employer, and let me go to the controller section, and you can see this that we are hitting this. get average of an SDE, right? Now let me go back to our service, and then we are hitting the another service as get average of a BA. That was the another endpoint that we have made in employer service. Then what I am doing is, then I am constructing a JSON object, and in that JSON object I am putting both the average salaries with some kind of a key, some kind of a description key, and then returning the JSON object to show the user that these two are the average salaries, and that would be displayed in a JSON format to it, right? Now our coding part is done, and this is how we interact using REST template, right? There are many other ways to interact with two microservices, and of different languages as well. So right now I'm working on Java, and both the applications are on Java, but you can actually have an interaction between two service or three service or many n number of services using many other ways or of different languages as well. It's not that you have to make a service of a particular language. So let's see how we'll be deploying our service and how we'll run our service. So let me go and click on employer service, and let me go on run, and I have to build the Maven, right? I'll give all the commands in the description of the video as well, that how we'll be, what is the process, how to build the project, and then how to run the project on Eureka, right? So we have to build the project. So what will I say is clean install. So what this command will do is, it will clean the project and then install the project. It will make my jar, right? The target folder and all, everything would be made after this command gets success. So let me run this command first. Okay, it has started to run. Let us see that it gets success or not. So it has started to read the project, right, and started to compile. It will run some tests as well, some default tests. There are commands to skip those tests as well, right? So it is running the tests. So let us see that. Okay, so it is now making the tables into the database, right? I'll show you the table as well. So Hibernate commands are getting fired. Now you would be seeing, yes, you can see the query of creating the table of employer, right? And it should now be success. It is taking a bit of time. It has discovered it, it has launched, it has made our jar file. The tests have also run successfully, and it is repackaging my service. So let's wait for it to get completed, and then we'll go to CR jar. So yes, it's build success, right? So let me now go to the folder of the project, right? So I'll go to the System Explorer and see that my jar is being built or not. So because while we have to up the server on Eureka, I have to run the jar. So let me go to the project, and let me go to the targets and see that the jar is made. Yes, the jar is made. Now what we'll be doing is, we'll be simply opening a CMD. CMD is the command line, right? And first of all, copy the name of this jar file. I'll also add the command that I am using here, right? So I'll say java jar, and I'll paste the jar name that I've copied, and I'll say dot jar, and I'll run this. Now till the time it gets running and success, let me again go to the to Eclipse, and let us run our employee service, right? So employee service we have to run on control on the Tomcat. So let me open the main class. So main class also needs to be renamed first. So let me rename it first. So I'll say it as employee. So I'll say employee service application. I think so. It might get failed because I've missed something. Let me close this first because I've missed in something that is in the employer service. I have missed to enable the Eureka server. Yes, I have missed to enable Eureka. So I've missed this command, this annotation to enable the Eureka server. So let me use Eureka enable Eureka. So right, we have to use this command to make it know this application should know that this application would be running on Eureka and it should be enabled here, right? So let me again build the application first and then we'll jump to employee service. So first of all, let me again go and I'll use that command of dskip test clean install minus d skip test and I'll run this. Let me see whether this command is being taken by this or not. So it has started to scan the project. Okay, so it was unable to deleting target. Okay, I was using here, so I have to close the CMD first, then I have to again run the command because it was unable to delete the target folder as it was already being in use by the CMD. So let me say it as again clean install minus d skip test. I told you that this command will skip the testing part as well. It will directly build the application. So let us see that it runs successfully. So okay, it has started to clean the application and the test would be skipped. So it will directly build the application now. Yes, you can see the tests are skipped. Repackaging. Okay, yes, it is built success. Let me go to the folder directory again and let me go to the target. So you can see that again my executable jar file has been made, right? Let me open the CMD again and let me use that command minus jar and let me copy the name first. I've copied the name, let me paste it here. I'll say dot jar, right? I started to and the application would start running, right? Now let's go to Eclipse and let's start our employee service as well. So what is look, employee service would simply run on Tomcat, right? We have the endpoint exposed, so we'll be using the endpoints of employee service from our Postman. So let me go and run let me go to the main class first. So this is our main class and I'll say run the application. I'll say run as Spring Boot app, right? So this will okay. Yes, this will run on. Let me see the property files. I haven't changed anything in the property files, I suppose. So it will run on 8080, right? So this application would run on 8080 code. So now you can see that it has started to build the application. Hibernate commands are fired. You'll see a last message of that the application is running successful on Eureka server, right? Then only we'll start by going ahead. So now this application has also started. Let us wait for a few moments that it also shows that successfully deployed on Tomcat server. So now both our services are running. Employer services also started to run, and now let me go to the Eclipse as well, and let me open the console for our employee service. So yes, employee services also started to run, right? Now what we'll do is we'll go to the Postman. So we'll be hitting the REST endpoint of employee service, right? And then we need the output as the JSON constructed that okay, this is our average salary. So our port here would be 8080 and 8080, right? And our endpoint would be get average salaries, right? Let me show you that what will be our endpoint that we'll be hitting. So let's go to the code and then let's go to the controller part. So it says get average salaries, right? So what we'll do is get average salaries. Now this get average salaries would give the average salary of a software engineer and a business analyst, right? Let's hit it, right? So let's hit the application, what output it gives. So it gives an internal error. Why internal error? Okay, okay. It is giving a null pointer because we haven't added the data to our database, right? These null pointers would be handled by employer service, right? So I haven't handled those right now, but this should be handled by our employer service. Let me see that our table has been created or not. So let me refresh the table section, and we'll see that our table has been created. So it is yes, our employer table has been created. So let's first go to the script section and let's insert 2-3 values, right? 2-3, or I would say 1 or 2, one for software engineer and one for a business analyst. So this is the table access of an employer service, right? Not the employee service. So employee service is hitting this employer service through a REST template. So this is what is the motto of today's videos. So let me say it as 1, and the average package is I would say 65000 6,50,000, and the profile is software engineer. Let me double check it with the controller call which we are making, right? So let me go to the controller call and let me copy this up. Let's not make it a mess for this one. So let me copy this and let me run this command. So okay, it is inserted, and I will say it as 3500. So it will say 3,50,000, right? So it is of a business analyst. By the way, the salaries are hypothetical. Don't see that that this is the actual salaries provided. So I will say run the query, right? Okay, it is the ID. ID should be 2, right? So let's run the query. Now we have 2 datas, right? So let me first say select, select star from public.employer, right? I'll show you the data first in the database. So let me run this query, and why it is saying, oh, inserted a wrong thing here. So I will say run. So it should bring 2 rows, one for software engineer and one for the business analyst, right? So now again we'll go to the Postman, and we'll hit the service again. So it is saying, okay, it is saying, oh, inserted a wrong thing here. So I will say run. So it should bring 2 rows, one for software engineer and one for the business analyst, right? So now again we'll go to the Postman, and we'll hit the service again. So now again we'll go to the Postman, and we'll hit the Okay, so we have got the desired output that the average salary of a business analyst is 3,50,000, and the average salary for a software engineer is 6,50,000. Now you can see that I have hit the service of employee, right? I've hit the endpoint of service of employee, but you can see that in the command line of the employer service, you can see these queries running. Let me mark it for you. Okay. It is not working, I suppose. So these queries, you can see that it is fetching for a software engineer and it is fetching for a business analyst, right? So this is how we are hitting a particular endpoint, and that particular endpoint is interacting with another service using a REST template. So this was actually the explanation or the project or the code part that we wanted to cover in this video. So you can see on your screen that there are various other methods also how you can interact with the how the two microservices could interact with each other, and we can do some processing of data, or we can do some logical thing out of it. This was a simple example that okay, there is a service which is interacting with a database, and then there is a service which is interacting with that particular service to fetch that data, right? So this was it from the video. So many other ways that are there to actually interact with the interaction between the two microservices we'll cover in subsequent videos. And so hoping that you people have liked this video, and if any queries or any feedback, do mention in the comment section. So please share this video among your contacts, and do subscribe the channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.